May I just invite now Dr. Saurabh Jain, Vice President Indigen, to come on the stage, and all the panelists. Thank you very much.
So good morning, everyone. Yeah, we still have half an hour before we break for the lunch. I think it's a good segue. We've been talking about pandemic and how pandemic has taught us in speeding up things, bringing the vaccine to the market much faster compared to what we have seen in the past. That's where Gen AI and AI technologies comes into the picture. So today we are going to be here talking about Gen AI in the life science, and I have a very esteemed panel along with me. So first, I would like to welcome Suresh Subramanian, who is a national life science leader at EY. He leads digital transformations and help client drive new horizon objective by reimagining business models and customer experience in healthcare and the pharma industries. He brings more than 3 decades of industry experience across top pharma like GSK, Novartis, AZ, Pfizer, Biocon, with the leadership roles. My second panelist is Anirudh Ranganathan. Anirudh is a co-founder of Siki Bio. He's a computation biologist by training, part of the founding team of the Siki Bio, contributing towards continuous evolving computational design platform that can improve human health by designing better medicine. My third panelist comes from the devices industry. His name is Sridhar Anjanappa. Sridhar is an accomplished IT and R&D leaders with 18 plus years of experience, focus on developing an innovative cloud SaaS platforms and creating cutting edge AI based deep learning model and help empowering physicians. So we have a very diverse panel today, coming from life science leader to biotech to devices, and we all are going to discuss about AI. Okay, we all know accelerated drug discovery, more efficient clinical trials, quicker regulatory approvals, ultra targeted marketing activities. AI has been transforming in nearly all sectors across the product life cycle in the life sciences industry. McKinsey report says that AI could generate 60 billion to 110 billion a year in economy value for the pharma industry. We also know the EY has done a recent survey, and it talks about that 48% of the respondents in India are bullish about implementing the first Gen AI in next 8 to 10, 12 months, and remaining 84% of respondents agree that Gen AI is going to be dramatically improve the workforce productivity. So there is immense potential for Gen AI, and that's what we are going to be discussing today. We have half an hour, and I just want to make it more productive. So instead of taking too much time, let me get into the discussion. Yeah, I can do it from here. So let me first go to Suresh. Suresh, you've been headed different businesses across life science industry. You've been involved in the marketing, sales and marketing side a lot. Where do you see the pharma life science industry on the Gen AI adoption journey? What challenges you are observing, where are they, how they are adopting? You're also working with multiple clients as a partner in EY. So where do you see this going?
Well, I think yeah. Thank you, Saurabh. Firstly, to you, Indigen, and the organizers, a big thanks for having me here, and also apologies for being a little late and missing the first session, which ended up in this rearrangement. So apologies to co-panelists and all of you. Well, I think this Gen AI is, it all surprised us in September, October, and since then it's been a roller coaster, I would say, of belief and disbelief, or adopt or not adopt, maybe later kind of stuff. But I think we are all coming to one fact that we are slowly trying to skin this animal and seeing where it can fit. And different companies do it differently based on what benefits they see accruing in the long run. And it also conflicts with the current way of doing things, and therefore there's a challenge to get through as you unpeel this GenAI. And I would probably say the areas that you said, that the global pharma is looking at is in the discovery and in the clinical area the most, because that's where I think a large part of what you said, 100 or 110 million per McKinsey or 150 per Accenture, wherever you are, the lens you wear, that's where most of it is. You find trends like companies insourcing clinical trials now very actively, and in order to kind of take home the benefits that GenAI provides. So that's a starting point. And a lot of improvements in the global, I would say, scenario since, the AlphaFold or the DeepMind AlphaFold thing happened, where today in 2021 they declared that they had about 300,000 identified proteins and their structures. Today they talk about 218 million. So your ability to kind of predict protein expressions has caused a huge, and to understand diseases on misfolded proteins is probably also there. So it kind of improves drug discovery capabilities, right? And there is, though many of it is held closely, there is a democratization that helps, that brings in much more people into the bandwagon. Well, those two being the early ones, I would say that a lot would depend on the kind of ability to harness data, because we never gave data much. And I think to kind of get that and put an analytics layer, an AI layer on top to bring in the first level of efficiencies, and then to build a GenAI top to kind of say how we can kind of speed up things and bring efficiencies through seamless use will be key. In India, so I'm not getting into the other areas of, clearly, the 100 billion or 150 billion includes healthcare as well, which means at the provider level and at the payer level efficiencies. So that's a big chunk from a commercial standpoint. Patient awareness, patient being able to manage disease better, and use all that data and the confluence of med device and pharmaceuticals and payer provider interventions. What do they provide, in our understanding of trends, and therefore are we able to find a sweet spot and zero in on being able to encash it through GenAI will determine how much we determine out of that 150 billion. In India, it's a little different. We are known to have data in very disparate areas. Probably it's an opportunity now in the name of GenAI where we get it together. And with the Ayushman Bharat ABDM project, where repositorization of EHR, EMRs, and following up patients, having one data of truth, for the medical history of patients, all augur well on how you harness data for these, for GenAI to kind of be applicable. And also the integration of healthcare across multiple service providers, be it diagnostics, be it whatever you have, all that is again another. So coming back closer home, these are opportunities that you have. And also from India has always been a manufacturing destination. We pride ourselves by saying we are the manufacturers of the world, and pharmacy of the world and other things. Imagine, and GenAI feeds right into that process. Perhaps we can talk about what it does to kind of listing. You're filing for ANDA, you're filing for DMFs, you're filing for validation trials. So in all that, in the regulatory setting, I would imagine that that's a very attractive segment, and that would speed up things and kind of create some kind of a, I would say, a platform where more companies would come in because of the capabilities in data and data processing will enable these solutions. So it makes the process from a mystical point of view to a very realistic, estimatable point of view, right? So I think these are areas where the companies would immediately come in. The second area is, and give me one more minute, is in the area of patient fronting. You know, in generic companies with so many things happening, companies are always looking for differentiating, and therefore, what do you do at the doctor-patient interface? How do you kind of facilitate it, kind of make treatment seamless? And in areas where patients manage their own disease, what can you help them with? All these are areas I think that companies will immediately take it up. But we are starting. I don't think we are very busy in creating point of views and POCs for companies. There are small beginnings in the healthcare setup in institutions like Apollo, Max, and a couple more, where they've really gone a little ahead, and I think that's where it is. But who will do what will be on what impact they foresee for them as a company, and I think we will have to wait for that.
I think that's very insightful. Suresh, so Anirudh, Suresh talked about drug discovery. I think one of the biggest application is in drug discovery. We've been talking about that. I think the world has been talking about that, and you guys have been deep into it, right? You guys have been using that. So can you explain it to us? How are you using AI in the drug discovery?
So yes, there is a lot of excitement in the drug discovery world about AI and the applicability of AI. So us in particular, there are 3 areas we are exploring right now, and basically these are identifying novel targets. Can we look at different targets for diseases? Also target combinations. So basically, is there a rational way of bringing targets together to have molecules that act against multiple pathways? That's one thing we're doing. The second aspect we're really looking at, and which is very interesting, is macromolecules beyond small molecules. So now there's a lot of, it's been quite established that you can do small molecule discovery with AI, and you can accelerate the paths. You can bring time efficiency, you can bring cost efficiency into the discovery process with small molecules, but can we extend that to biologics? Can we extend that to RNA design? So that is something that we are very, very keen, and we're very looking at that very closely. And of course, besides that, can we build specific sort of, molecular properties that we want? So drug discovery, of course, it's the earliest stage in the whole discovery development process, and when you look at molecule design, you have to bring in so many different properties in order to make a successful drug. It's like way beyond just efficacy or safety, right? So all of that together, can we look at different AI tools to maybe basically accelerate this, bring in different properties right at the start, right at library creation before we do sort of an in silico screen? Can we actually curate things right at the beginning so that we only look at areas of interest, molecules of interest right at the start? So this is something that we are really, really keenly, these are 3 areas we are really looking at. And I think that we are already, I mean, there are enough examples right now of the first AI-driven molecules in clinic, and undoubtedly there is huge potential, but like Suresh said, basically what we are doing is that we are just starting to peel apart many different aspects of it. Where are the flaws, what are there? And of course, data is going to become massively important, and that's a sort of, maybe in the next round of discussion we can come to that. But like, data is going to, the quality of data that is there, the lack of variability across different experiments that is there, because biological data is often very, very fuzzy, and it's sort of quite variable. You look at the same molecule done in different labs, you might have different results. So how are we going to bring that kind of uniformity to sort of really boost an AI-driven effort?
So let me take one follow-up question on what you said, that you talked about the cost efficiency, you talked about the time efficiency. What does it mean for the consumer, right? if the drugs, if you spend less money in R&D, if the drugs could be much faster to come to the market, what does it mean to the consumers, and what changes it will bring into the market itself, right? The portfolio itself could change because of that.
So if you look at the cost of bringing a drug to market, if you look at quanta, then still the largest chunk is in the clinical trial space, right? So you are in the development phase, the clinical development is where you spend a lot of money. But the fact that discovery comes very early in the piece, and there is a lot of time that it takes to actually reach the market from an idea to market, and there are different estimates, 12 years, 13 years, whatever that is there today, in the regulated space at least. So when you look and see every dollar that you save early and time that you save early, every day that you save early, the time value of money, right? So the cost of your entire discovery program can really get massively impacted, because what you're doing in the discovery phase is at time 0, time 1, right? You're at the first year, second year of a discovery program, which is going to take years to get approved. So then you can really have this sort of effect is what we believe, that we can actually, every efficiency that you build in at the discovery stage, the cost of failure, you keep it low, you are able to build better predictive models, then you can absolutely impact the cost.
Thanks Anirudh. Coming to you, Sridhar, now we heard about the life science, we heard about the biotechs, how they've been using technology. I think devices is the one area where it can directly impact to the patients, right? We've been talking about clinical trial much shorter. We talked about the cost of the drug discovery could become less. But I think we feel that devices is the one which can directly start delivering the value to the customer from day one. So what do you think about that? Any initial remark on that?
Thank you, Saurabh. First of all, good morning. I'm Sridhar Anjanappa, and 2 wonderful panel sessions before that today. Before coming here, I was only knowing generation wealth, but after coming here, I understood what is generation health, thanks to Sanskriti, and we also understood all the COVID challenges. And so I come from the device background. How many of you know what is ChatGPT is to start with? Any of you? No? All right. So I think so. You guys have already, if you have already played around with it, I think you guys already understood the immense potential it has, especially to start with increasing the business efficiency and productivity in how we deliver our product and services to our customers. And medical devices companies always, when the technology revolution happens, they are the last one, I think including healthcare and life sciences, the last one to join the party, because always our approach is on the risk management side. And the same here. I think only difference is the fuss that generative AI has causes. I think it's pushing a pressure to adopt this technology much earlier, because every organization in medical device companies want to take advantage of the first come advantage is the market. Having said that, where we are today in medical device companies, we always want to see the risk and see what is the reality versus the hype of any technology, such technologies. So today we are only experimenting it to increase our productivity of our back office functions. Let's say I want to add the ChatGPT, similar kind of a bot, having available in the organizations to answer the HR queries or IT queries, improve the decision that I need to make, including the designs, the product development process, supporting the compliance and regulatory processes. That's where we are right now looking into. If you see the adaptation of AI itself, AI versus GenAI. AI is the one, I think probably last 2-3 years which is adopted. I think there's a 29 to 30% of increase in medical devices which has AI in it, which has been approved by the FDA. GenAI is something I have not seen any approved GenAI based products in the field, at least from the regulatory. So we have some way to go to there. So what is required is putting together an implementation strategy specifically in companies like medical devices to adopt generative AI today. And that involves having right people with the skill set of generative AI technology who have a right vision how to implement it, and having the right processes, that is visualizing a concept for a generative product, right? I think we still have to, for working out what use cases that we can solve from medical devices, which has a lot value to the patient and also has a lesser risk to the patient at the same time. So we have to put together a process which enables it, and most importantly, put together a AI ethics and responsible AI framework, which ensures and governs and continuously monitors the risk associated with the AI. Right? So having said that, we're in early stages of in medical devices to adopt generative AI.
Sure. So Suresh, Sridhar talked about the restraint. So we all know that we do see GenAI as a catalyst for innovation, but there's other view is exercise restraint due to the privacy and other concerns, right? So what do you recommend to the organization in terms of driving the responsible adoption of this technology?
Sure. I just want to preface it with a little bit of what I wanted to add on to what Sridhar said on med devices. And I think med devices is, he said late, but I think what we are also going to see is the early adoption right in the discovery stage. As Anirudh said, when you're identifying targets, it also gives an opportunity to identify biomarkers, as you're getting the hit rates and lead optimization process. Software as a device comes in much earlier, and the biomarkers start. So that's one great opportunity early on in the area. So I just thought I'll mention that. And second is also in improving outcomes. All this to do what? We want to improve the outcomes. We want to bring in healthcare innovations. That's the ultimate objective. And I think the coming in of point of care devices and the data they are throwing out, and there's a whole lot of data milli. And we don't know honestly what to do with all that data. Data people and that's where I want to segue to the next topic, is you take a simple thing, right? Like if I'm using a CGT, continuous glucose monitor, and I'm taking insulin as well, over time of a year, I know the patterns of glucose, what I ate, where was the spike, and things like that. And it could all add up into providing a personalized care, right? So I think the confluence of medicine and other modalities of healthcare, I think that's the most exciting thing that data would bring to one table and offer very easy ways of accessing that, right? And I think that's what I wanted to say. And that brings to the question of saying, when you bring on top of this AI large language models that kind of borrow from everywhere, there are syndicated data, there are IP related data, the collaboration and all that is there on the top. But what comes out, who owns it? How much of it? And therefore, that's the first conflict. Now, you don't put a conflict ahead and limit science, right? So science has to grow. And it is our responsibility as part of responsible AI and responsible Gen AI to kind of solve this. So people like Krishna, I don't see her, will have more to work for in trying to prevent conflicts rather than address conflicts, right? So this is a very important area in IP that we already know, and I don't want to get into the examples that already New York Times, filing a case. So let's not go into that. We know already that there are beginnings that if you don't take care of it early, you're going to have problems subsequently, right? Because we don't know what's the money value of what you're kind of ending up doing. So when the stakes go high, there will be new people who would claim to want an extra part of it. The second part is data privacy has to be, so consent and data privacy are very important. So in our process of capturing data, do we have the right consent? And that's very key. And therefore, when we give data, like The other day in BioAsia, I heard certain hospital head honchos talking about making data available for research. But I think when you have those HMR data and other data of people, disease and treatment, it's important to white label and make it available for use.
Sure.
So I think these two, if done, we will be able to provide for more outcome-related, solutions, I might say. So innovation is not in the drug discovery as we often want to put it, right? We glorify and romanticize people like Anirudh, which is great, but I think there are healthcare delivery people also we need to bring in, and there's so much of innovation that GenAI can bring, bringing discovery platforms, improving access, getting new modalities into the otherwise neglected areas of treatment. All that is innovation as well.
Sure.
And I think if we take care of these aspects of IP related, getting in early, visioning it, and kind of bringing in collaboration around it, then white labeling data to make it available. I think that kind of and consent management very importantly.
Yep.
Those to my mind will enable more people to come and use GenAI, right?
Yep. So very interesting, Suresh, you talked about continuous glucose monitoring, which I also practice. I also monitor my glucose regularly, and many of us have been having these patches who's been monitoring what I'm eating, what spikes my glucose level, how can I change my eating habits, can I have a protein before going for a carbohydrates. There are a lot of things which we've been doing on the preventive sides, and coming to you, Sridhar, right, being in a Baxter, how do you see these GenAI is helping physicians in clinical decisions, right? And how Baxter has been helping in that. So there is a lot of data. What Suresh was talking about, a lot of data which is coming directly to consumers like us, who knows what has been happening inside my body and how can I manage that. But I'm sure there is a lot of data which is getting collected and analyzed and can be shared with the physicians to take a better decisions.
I mean, there's a huge potential because Baxter has a huge portfolio of products starting from primary care to surgical care, hospital care, critical care. So one of the example I can say, we're working in hospital care where we have infusion pumps and there's thousands of infusion pumps connecting and daily doing thousands of infusion to patients. And one of the biggest challenge today is the medication error. The human error when you try to program the infusion pump, it's very much possible that a nurse wants to input a 10 ml per hour infusion, but by mistakenly she added another 0 digit in the pump and becomes 100 ml per hour. And imagine what is the situation of the patient. So that's the area where you can take and collect all those data. And it goes to a AI model which can predict and say that, hey, whatever you just programmed just now, 99% of the time it's not really programmed in that way for this kind of a patient, for this therapy. This rate is I've never seen. Are you sure if this is what you wanted to infuse? It's a great value addition, another level of security. Especially we have seen in COVID time where nurse to patient ratio is 1 to 10, 1 to 20, 1 to 30, something like that, right? With all that burden of administration, not always you can take care of the patient safety. That's where the generative AI in AI technologies can provide clinical decision support system. Another area is the alarms, the smart alarms. It can really indicate and intervene and say and predict something really going wrong with the patients with the range of product that Baxter has for hospital monitoring devices. So it can monitor the SpO2, it can monitor the patient blood pressure. One of the interesting devices is what we call Starling. What it does is when I do the infusion to the patient, and it will check the fluid responsiveness of the patient, and it knows how the patient is responding to the current drug infusion, and then provides a feedback back to the infusion and the nurse to adjust and do the titration so that, for example, if you're doing infusing an opioid, and patient, the most common cause when you're infusing opioid is that patient goes to a coma. right? Because of respiratory depression. So if you infuse too much of painkiller, it goes to a coma, right? So that's where the AI can predict and say, hey, patient's blood pressure is going down, and I see his respiratory rate is going down. Are you sure he's going to continue to infuse this particular drug to the patient, and it can intervene and stop it? Right?
Sure. Thanks, Sridhar. Anirudh, as a company who has been running on the base of GenAI in terms of doing the drug discovery, I'm sure the team structure, the profiles could be very different or should be slightly different, right? What is the emerging profiles? What are the new roles do you see in the teams emerging because when you start using GenAI?
Yeah. So currently we are looking at AI as one of the many things that we're doing in terms of the in silico discovery world, basically, right? We still think there's great value in physics because there is a lack of dependence on data that comes in because, like I explained the previous time and as Suresh touched upon it, data is going to stay proprietary.
Yeah.
High quality data is going to stay proprietary whether we like it or not. Publicly available data is going to suffer from variability.
Yeah.
So basically, we still believe that there's a huge value in terms of having unbiased methods like physics. And so what we are doing is we are trying to make the best of both worlds, basically, where we have a unbiased approach like a thermodynamics physics-based approach with an AI-based approach wherever it's applicable, wherever we feel confident that we can have a good impact on it. And I mentioned the three areas that we're actively exploring what we can do with AI and especially GenAI. So that's one aspect. So I think from our company perspective, we still think good computational biologists who can marry biology with in silico design. That is what we are looking at. And I think a good bridge, which we have found often, is people who have good knowledge in chemistry, because they have the understanding of fundamental mechanisms in terms of simulations, in terms of data and now AlphaFold has come out with AlphaFlow, which is beautiful. It actually simulates MD simulations. So that's really like lots of cool things are happening, but still having someone who can anchor their understanding in biology and chemistry, because ultimately a molecule has to be made, a molecule has to be delivered, a molecule has to be efficacious in a biological setting. So that I think is something that we very much look at, and I think someone who can straddle the two worlds or the three worlds, that's always going to be very valuable. So that's at least from our perspective, that's what we look at. How it's maybe going to change across globally. Well, you already see, right, a lot more computer scientists and a lot more people with much more of the AI skills coming into the biology field. And I think biology is going to be one area where one of the main applications of this, right? So you are going to see a lot more people come in from there into the drug discovery and biology spaces. My guess, we already are seeing it. So I think it's a pretty safe bet, maybe, that you're going to see more of it.
So maybe my final question to all three of you, and maybe we can start with you, Anirudh, itself, is what is your take? What is your 2 to 3 years view on GenAI? Where do you see the technology heading?
Yeah. So from a drug discovery perspective, at least from a personal drug discovery perspective, I think again, it's going to be very important to get data from all over the place. And so I'm glad Suresh mentioned it in terms of having to look at biomarkers, right? From a target identification perspective, biomarker data that is already generated by diagnostics companies can be very useful when we are looking at this already. And I was just discussing with Sridhar offline the same thing, where we are looking at different diseases that don't have good markers. So how do we test any of our molecules, right? Whether they're working, not working, when there are no good markers to test. So that is one aspect of it, and experimental data is going to become incredibly key. That is my big takeaway that is going to happen, I think. And you are going to see more and more partnerships, or it would be good to see more and more partnerships where there is nice data frameworks that come around that will enable AI or GenAI, AI in general or GenAI in particular, to sort of leverage all the understanding, enhanced understanding and data that is there and go beyond, because ultimately that's the thing, right? AI can see connections where we can't see connections, so that's the whole idea, and sort of try to get the data good so that that can be leveraged. That's one aspect. And the second aspect is that not to be dogmatic maybe, and also see wherever ultimately drug discovery is a complicated process, which works where and how to work it and how to basically flexibly adopt different aspects of AI and maybe combine it with different aspects of maybe physics or cheminformatics, whatever it is, and then bring together a holistic solution that is truly going to accelerate, use in silico design to accelerate drug discovery. That's sort of my two key takeaways in this.
Thanks, Anirudh. Sridhar, what do you think, where in next 2 to 3 years device is going to be, and how are we going to be adopting GenAI in devices?
See, in devices, today generative AIs look like a black box. That means you put something, some magic happens inside, suddenly you see a lot of information coming in. It solved the business clinical problem or workflow problem. So the explainability of how did you choose this outcome or how did you make this clinical decision is so difficult to explain to regulators, right? So when such scenarios, the only other way is that you generate enough evidence of any solution that you build a trust to any stakeholders, including regulatory or even the physicians or patient, that hey, it is so consistent outcome for 5 years, 10 years now that now you can trust that technology is can be really been adopted in such scenarios, right? So that's going to be the major challenge. And if you're talking next to 2 to 3 years, if I think a very optimistic scenario where you say someone figured out how to create this, how to solve this explainability problem, everybody's respecting everyone else's data privacy, no one is adding anyone else's personal information into ChatGPT. Regulatory understand what GenAI is, and they clearly knows AI and GenAI is different. They create some more regulatory policies and more specific to GenAI. Medias don't make a buzz out of it. They won't call GenAI as a doomsday. They will take over human, and all of this doesn't happen. Next 3 to 4 years, I think we have a good solutions coming out with a lot of investments on it. But that's not the ideal situation. It could be. So I see next to 2 to 3 years, maybe we are few solutions which are easily target some low-hanging fruits, what I call the solutions which we can address in clinical scenarios will come out. Maybe to really address really critical challenges in healthcare and bring that kind of a solutions, probably we are somewhere closer to 2028 to 2030 is what I think the right time.
Suresh, your final word.
Yeah. Well, I think, how do I answer this? I think in many companies you have business folks, you have IT folks, and I think it's important to have and you have the competency folks who bring in the new thinking around. And I think there has to be a link, right? The BT-OT interface is very, very important. And so the business guys don't explain the business problems, and therefore the GenAI applications, which is currently in the hands of the IT, is not there. And therefore, when do the requirement of efficiency or problems speak to the providers within the organization? So that's one part. The second is, I'm talking very specific to pharma.
Yeah.
You had till very recent IT folks reporting to the CFO, and CFO's vision about what's my next 3 months, next quarter going to be, and what's going to be the expense, kind of ruled over it, right? And today we see a CTO, CDO, all of them coming, right? Data privacy, individual, all that part of a larger IT team. There is an IT strategy. And I think what is important is a larger business role, on saying how can we make things better. That kind of a thinking is very, very important, I feel. And I think that will bring companies both at a promoter level and again I'm saying I'm very specific to India, at a business level, what can be the immediate gains that we can have in the kind of landscape that we play, be it in India or a footprint outside of India. And I think those will be the beginnings where we will make a start. It's important, therefore, to not, the computational biologist does not dismiss the GenAI as something, I'm saying, outside of the core work that is there and is more something that sits on top. But I think there is a collective responsibility of thinking what value to the work that you do that we can collectively add. And I think those are the thought process that will make the initial steps. The last point I want to add is that India is also looking at, moving from a volume-driven pharmacy of the world to a very value, discovery-driven, innovation-driven industry in pharma. And that is going to bring in a lot of requirement for use of technology.
Yeah.
There are global companies that do research out of India through that GCCs. There are CDMOs and CROs who kind of bring out basic research. And I think they will be the starting points of an intensive use of technology, and then the others will come in. And I think Indian industry has always been a followership, right? If you want to put money in manufacturing or if you want to put money in the sales force, those have been the drivers of growth. Now, by talking technology, you're introducing another element, and that will take some time. And so I think the starting points are places like these. Yeah. And in healthcare delivery, I think the government's focus on ABDM is indirectly bringing in technology into the healthcare delivery space. And I think it will have a domino on many people in the stakeholders to kind of use technology like GenAI and make very responsible use of data. I think those will be the factors we will see moving forward.
Just want to add to Suresh what he said about ABDM, right? I think I was at one of the conference and Dr. Devi Shetty from Narayana Health was saying that the fundamental, we were talking about the AI conference and Dr. Devi Shetty said that, hey, in India, 70% of healthcare data is still not digitized. That means you don't have a digital data, then what are you talking about AI, sure. Right? So GenAI is one solution which can actually solve this problem, right? Sure. Where doctor and patient is having a conversation in natural language and it can be automatically captured sure. and digitized, right? So that's sure. where it will all start.
Sure. Thanks. I think thanks. Very, very interesting discussion, and this can continue for all. But it reminds me, I think 20 years back, we started something very innovative with Sudarshan Jain, when he was heading the Abbott, and we started something very innovative in digital world, and which was ahead of the time. And I am sure this GenAI is a next change which has been happening across us. Has been changing industries, has been changing all other industries, and we have been seeing many industries are getting disrupted with GenAI. And I'm sure there are big changes going to come in the life science industry also. We will need another genie. Yeah. So thank you very much. Thank you for your patience listening, and we enjoy thoroughly this discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Saurabh, and all the panelists from the dais. Now this is the time for a lunch. I would request you please join us for a lunch, please.